Joining us today to discuss the results of this very interesting study is Dr. Samuel Wasser himself. Doctor, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
A very interesting study, Doctor, something right out of a movie, it seems like. So what would you say are the main findings of your study?
Well, the ivory that we have been looking at are large ivory seizures that tend to be shipped by transnational criminal organizations. And the most important finding was that the vast majority of these seizures were being shipped by a very small number of criminal networks. They were originally shipping ivory out of East Africa and West Africa. About 78% of the seizures coming out of East Africa, about 78% of all seizures are coming out of East Africa. Those are savanna elephants, and about 22% out of Central West Africa being shipped out of West Africa. So we found that in all instances, there was a very small number of traffickers moving the ivory, and they seemed to be connected to one another, those transnational criminal organizations operating in different ports.
So walk us through this interesting process of using this DNA to identify these poaching and smuggling networks in Africa, Doctor.
Yes, well, what we had to do was first we wanted to figure out where was the ivory being poached. So we created a DNA reference map using DNA from elephant dung collected across the continent. And then we developed tools to match DNA using the same genetic markers in ivory to the map to determine where the ivory was being poached. That early work showed that virtually all of the ivory, large transnational shipments of ivory were coming from just two places in Africa. Again, 78% from East Africa, 22% from Central West Africa, where they were poached. But then we started to look at when we were sampling the tusks, it's very important to identify the two tusks from the same animal and put one aside so that you don't measure the same animal twice. It saves money and just gives you more power of your data. And in doing that, we noticed that over half the tusks in these large seizures did not have a pair. The right tusk was in the shipment, but the left tusk was not there. And we started to look between shipments because by that time we had a lot of different shipments in our lab that had all been genotyped. So we could see if we found that other tusk in another shipment. And indeed, we found a number of cases, almost 30 cases, where the right tusk was in one shipment, the left tusk was in the other shipment, and always those two shipments were shipped out of the same port close in time, and all the ivory in the two shipments were highly in overlap. So that suggested that the same trafficker might be shipping the both shipments. But that was just the beginning, because the likelihood of getting both tusks from the same elephant in your lab is pretty low, because I have to get access to both seizures. And when I do get access to it, I only can afford to sample about 30% of the shipment. So it gives me a 9% chance in the best conditions that the two tusks would be in my lab. So we thought we were missing a lot of these matches. We then realized that since female elephants stay in their family herd throughout life, whereas males may disperse, but they don't really go all that far. They stay in the same population, same localized populations primarily. And so we could track tusks from very close relatives between shipments. So a parent offspring, a full sib or a half sib. And what we found was remarkable, because the amount of connectivity between shipments to the same transnational criminal organizations, as well as an organization in operating one country to those in another, was enormous. And some of these criminal organizations have been operating for as long as 15 years or more.
Wow. Well, Dr. Wasser, thank you again for coming on Forum Daily and sharing your important research.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.